Okay, so here is part 2 of chapter 4, section 2. So you should have your notebook out, or you should have your notes out, and you could be filling in some definitions here. So I'll just talk while you fill in, or you could just pause it and fill it in and then continue. So the domain is all the x values. It's all the numbers that you're going to be plugging in. So sometimes maybe it's not exactly an x, but whatever numbers we're plugging in, whatever input is, that's the domain. The range is all the y values, or those are all the answers that you'll get when you plug in those x values. And then independent and dependent variables, just another names for x and the y. The independent is the x values. That's the number that's going to determine the other one. And then the dependent is the y values. Think about what depends means. Not the diaper things, but when you're a baby, you are dependent on your parents. So you depend on them for everything. So the y values depend on what the x value is. So whatever number I put in, do the math to it, that will tell me what the y value is. Okay, so the independent and dependent variables, that is helpful if I have an expression or if I have words that I need to put into an equation, like the ones that I have below. It might be helpful to think of this little kind of expression here. Something depends on something. So if you can fill in those blanks, then you know what x and y is. The y values depend on the x values. So for example, it says the width is 3 more than twice the length. What I don't know is the width, and I don't know the length. So either the width or the length, you have to figure out which one depends on the other. In this case, the width depends on the length, because I'm going to double the length, then add 3 to it. That will tell me what my width is. So my width depends on my length. So if I can fill in the blanks, now I know that my width is the y value and my length is the x value. Okay? I have a D and an I here, but let's just say this is my y value, this is my x value. So I would know that my y value is my width and my x value is my length. Okay? So it totally depends on the problem. In this case, the width depended on the length. In another problem, it might be the other way around. So you've got to read the question. All right, let me erase this. The next example says the number of calories eaten versus the weight of a hamburger. So the number of calories and the weight of my hamburger, those are my two things that I don't know. And so when you think about which one depends on the other, I'm thinking the calories depend on the weight. So the number of calories in a hamburger depends on the weight of a hamburger. So my calories is my y value, and my weight is my x value. And then if I was going to write an equation, I would know which is which. Okay, so this right here, very helpful. If you can fill in the blanks, now you'll know which one's the x value, which one's the y value. Okay, moving along. Function notation. This is really important. You're going to see this a lot, and some people get confused by what this means. It does not mean f times x. Okay, so in this chapter, we're talking about functions. The way we would say this is f of x. That's how I would read that. F of x. It's the function at x. This is my, that's my domain. That's my input. So whatever is in the parentheses is the thing that I am going to put in place of x. So that would say f of x is equal to 2x squared plus 1. So now if I go down here, now I've got g of t. So the name of my function is g, and my variable is t. So g of t. So my function g of at t is equal to 3t squared minus 5t plus 1. So that's just naming my function. It's telling me what it is. What you're going to be asked to do is to evaluate a function depending on what they tell you. So this says, what is g of 2? That means using my g function, what do I get when I plug in 2? So everywhere that there used to be a t, I'm going to put in a 2. Everywhere that there used to be a t, I'm going to put in a 2. And then I just do the math. I do not do anything at all with this. That's just telling me what I did. So order of operations, 2 squared is 4. 4 times 3 minus 5 times 2 is 10. So I have 12 minus 10 plus 1 is going to give me 3. So my function g, when I put in 2, is equal to 3. And that's how I would read this answer. I don't do anything else. Some people try to divide by 2 to get g by itself. No. That's just telling me when I plugged in 2 into the g function, I got 3. The next one is saying use the g function again, but this time plug in negative 3. So everywhere that there was a t, I'm going to put in a negative 3. And then I just go back and do the math. Negative 3 squared is 9. Negative times negative is positive. 5 times negative 3 is negative 15 plus 1. So I've got 27 plus 15. Right, I've got my subtracting a negative here. Plus 1. 27 plus 15 is 42 plus 1 is 43. So my function g, when I put in negative 3, is equal to 43. And that would be my final answer. Now you can definitely use a calculator if you want. Just be careful, be sure to put parentheses around the negative. Okay? Last one. This one tricks people sometimes, but it's actually the easiest. This is saying, what's the function g when I put in n? So everywhere that there was a t, I put in an n. Now I don't know what n is. So my answer is just 3n squared minus 5n plus 1, and I'm done. Okay? Last two things for this video, because that's all that we have time with. It says using the last two things. Let me go over here to f. So now I have a function f. So f of x is equal to 3x minus 2. You'll see this. Sometimes instead of just a letter or just a number, you're going to see an expression inside. And you do the same thing. So whatever is inside this parentheses is going to go in here. So instead of f of x, it's f of b plus 1. So I'm going to put in here b plus 1. And I just need to simplify. I don't know what b is, but I can use the distributive property. So I'm going to get 3b plus 3, and then it's a minus 2. I can simplify that to be 3b plus 1. And that's my final answer. So f of b plus 1 equals 3b plus 1. And I'm done. Okay, now this is the last two things before this video is done. And I have, it looks like, 50 seconds to do it. So if I'm adding g of x plus f of x, it's just combining like terms. So it's g of x noticed and f of x. So that would be 3x squared minus 5x plus 1 plus 3x minus 2. See, I'm adding them. So 3x squared, there's no more x squared, so that's just 3x squared. Negative 5x, a negative 5x plus a 3x is minus 2x, and a plus 1 minus 2 is minus 1, and then that would be my answer. Subtracting, a little different, so I'm starting with the g function, so it's 3x squared minus 5x plus 1, instead of subtracting, I'm going to add the opposite. So I'm going to add a negative 3x squared, or sorry, 3x, and I'm going to add a positive 2. See that? I changed that to adding the opposite. And now it's still going to be 3x squared plus, keep thinking I'm drawing with a different color here, sorry. So I have 3x squared plus negative 5 and negative 3 is negative 8x, and 1 plus 2 is 3.